it was Friday, and I just thought, yeah, I'd love to talk about blasphemy. You know, why not? Yes. When I came along, well, no, just before I came along, how many new people? Hold on. Yes, very good. Anybody else? Very good. Who are you? Fantastic. Nice to see you. Yeah. And can you see all right? Yeah. Everybody? All right, because they'll all be trying to jump over your head at the other side. It's okay, good. So 1977, we turned on the television and the news was that somebody had just been prosecuted for blasphemy in England. And we were all shocked. We didn't know we had blasphemy laws, you know. And somebody had just been prosecuted. They got a 9-month suspended sentence. So that means 9 months hangs over them. They don't go to prison, but if they do anything wrong, straight in, yeah? And £1,000 fine. And it was Gay News magazine. And they had published a poem by this fellow, James Kirkup. I've never heard of him since, yeah? And he wrote a poem, The Love That Dares to Speak Its Name, a blasphemous poem about Christ being homosexual, yes? And blah, 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 yeah? And we had this woman, Mary Whitehouse, and she used to try and clean up the whole sort of media act in those days. You know, she'd complain, write letters, take people to court. And she won. She won. And Gay News had to pay £10,000 in costs. And what was amazing was that in this trial, the judge said for there to be blasphemy, or they called it blasphemous libel, was written down, one Christian needed to be offended. And that was it. You know, other countries, I mean, I trawl through Wikipedia is my source. I don't see myself as any sort of scholar. I see myself these days more as a journalist, you know, sort of scraping through any sources I can find. And Wikipedia is pretty good, you know. It's very good for Buddhism, yeah. So good stuff there. But I found there's blasphemy laws in so many countries all over the world. And what's curious, I've left my notes way behind now. I don't know where I am. But what's curious is even some Buddhist countries have blasphemy laws. But from what I can see, that comes because they were part of the British Empire. And it was good old Merry England who gave them these blasphemy laws to protect their own religions. Yeah. So, and they remain. They remain. Good. All right, I better not jump ahead too much. I'll have finished the talk without looking at it. Good. So, I'm pleased to say good old Gordon Brown, I quite liked him as a Prime Minister. Everybody hated him. I liked him. And the press got rid of him. He followed Tony Blair. In 2008, he got the blasphemy law in England repealed. It's gone. Ta-da! Quite interesting also that during the Salman Rushdie sort of riots, you might not. The trouble with me being so old is I tell you all these things and most of you weren't born, yeah? To me it's yesterday, you know, but it's weird, isn't it? It's really weird. I now know what my parents were going on about, you know. But you know, Salman Rushdie wrote this book, Satanic Verses. There were riots in England. And the Muslims tried to get him prosecuted with the British blasphemy laws. They failed because these laws only protect the Church of England. Isn't that wonderful? That funny little institution. You know? It's a strange little thing. Owns a lot of property, you know, because I used to work for the civil service for a while. They own a lot of, they have a lot of money, but there we go. But so anyway, they couldn't do anything. They mentioned it back in Iran. The Ayatollah Khomeini, he was it that the one? I can't remember. One of them, one of the Ayatollahs, he declared a fatwa that it's a holy thing to kill Salman Rushdie, you know? And he went into hiding for years. So that was it. Okay. So, yes. Blasphemy. When Sangharakshita heard this, he realised that if a Buddhist expressed their view, they've broken the blasphemy laws of England. Yeah? If a Buddhist says, I don't know, there's no God, yeah? Bang! Have you offended a Christian? So he decided to write a pamphlet called Buddhism and Blasphemy. Wrote it, I think, 1978. And published it, nice little pamphlet, and it went to all the radio stations and all the MPs, and you could hear the effects coming in. It did influence things, yeah? And maybe it was part of Gordon Brown later on, with other influences, getting rid of the laws, yeah? But this was interesting because I turned up at the Buddhist Centre in 1977, the same year, a few months later. And when you come to a Buddhist centre, it's in a certain phase. It's going through its own history. It's living out its own history. So when I came to Buddhism, threefold path, didn't do it. Eightfold path, missed it. It was all higher evolution, you know. That's what it was, yeah? And blasphemy. So Sangharakshita, he argued that when there's been a tyrannical rule, yeah? It could be a despot, could be anybody, could be Joe Stalin, whatever, church leader. When you come out of it, if you manage to get out of it, you will be quite seriously affected, of course. And your emotions will lag way behind. You know, I mean, I know friends who've written to the Pope saying, I'm not a Catholic anymore, you know. You put some money in and he has to write back to you. They do that, okay? But you still, there's so much to work with. Your emotions lag way behind. They do that so often. And so Sangharakshita argued that therapeutic blasphemy would help you leave the tyranny. So he actually argued for the benefits of blasphemy. It was not just a crime, yeah? It was helpful. Now, for the sake of good taste, I'm not going to go into any of my practices, yeah? All right? And, all right. By the way, I mean, I thought of feminism. There will be elements there of women coming out from, you know, a male-dominated system. And one can sympathise it with certain acts of blasphemy, you know, as people come out, yeah? Very good. Yeah, but, just one thing I saw in my notes here, and I quite like this. The way emotions lag behind, just my funny little example of this. Oh, you could work it out for yourself. But I was a physics teacher, yeah? And so when I got into Buddhism, I was doing all the electrical jobs, yeah? I had quite a lot of electric shocks. Maybe I wasn't the best electrician, I don't know. But fortunately, they were mostly safe because you usually had both hands in the air, yeah? You're fiddling with a light or something, and it used to go across your shoulders. You always swore, the same swear word, you know. I don't know why. And professionals called it a thump, because it really felt like somebody had punched you, yeah? When I had an electric shock, when I came home in the evening, I couldn't turn the light on. And I used to look at it, and it was plastic on a plaster wall. And I could go, this is safe, you've turned this light on, you know, 1,000 times. I cannot do it. I'd have to go to the kitchen, pull out the cutlery drawer, get a nice long wooden spoon and turn the light on with a wooden spoon. And that would last about 36 hours. It's quite interesting that from this you could even argue that the body has a sort of intelligence of its own, which is a fascinating avenue to go down, right? So that's what I remember. Yeah. So the old emotions, we've got to look after them, bring them along, train them, and blasphemy was very helpful, yeah? Good. I think I was always in private. I never got caught. I never really did any damage. I broke a candlestick on a church altar once, and I left them money for it. So there we go. Nice Buddhist, yeah. Good. It gives you an idea. Yeah. Great. So now, and this is autobiographical now. It's a little bit. I just want to talk about my dream life in those days. Because it's very hard. How can you tell how you're doing spiritually? It's very, very hard. Almost impossible to know how you are doing. You know, if you've ever taken a ferry, a ship voyage, you know, as the ship goes out to sea, you can't tell how fast you're going until you go past a buoy or something. You know, it gets faster and faster. You don't know it. And the spiritual life, you don't know it really. You know, although sometimes you look back and say, "I'm not doing that anymore." You can say that, yeah. But the dreams were quite interesting. So there's me practicing blasphemy, I did loads of metta bhavana. Ex-Catholic, Roman Catholic Church. I'm allowed to go into Catholic schools and teach religion. I've got a certificate, you know, did a special course. Me, you know. So I really got into it. God, I've got an uncle who died last year. He was a priest. 3 aunties who were nuns, you know. So it's all there, yeah, loads of it. I had a long way to come, yeah. Catholic boy, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, and great. So I'm doing loads of metta bhavana. It was the same practice every day for 2 years. I'm doing my various blasphemous acts. And then I remember my dreams. My first dream was most interesting. Before I moved into the community, I remember dreaming that underneath the city were all these passageways and tunnels, wide enough for a coach and horse to drive through. And we, the Buddhists, lived underground. Yeah? And we had stables down there and everything. And we were like a secret society. And I just knew that if people found out who we were, we would be killed. That was my feeling. Yeah. Historically, it's true. Yes? Blasphemy used to be, you know, it was only in the 1600s blasphemy lost the death penalty in England, you know? So there we are. But, yeah. But that was the first of my dreams. It was amazing, you know, just being, you know, in this secret world of Buddhism, yeah. I went on, it was my second retreat. Was it my second retreat? Weekend retreat. I was a school teacher. Came in, did the practices, Friday night, and this dream, suddenly I'm on Glastonbury Tor. Now it's a hill in South England, very mysterious, sort of King Arthur and his knights, you know, Guinevere, all these mysteries associated with Glastonbury Tor. It's there, you know, the tower is there, on a hill, like a little, you know, what's it, lemon squeezer, and it sits on the top. And in my dream, I'm in the tour, and I look up, and there's no floor, so I can see the stars, and this force comes in and starts smashing me to pieces. And this, now, in those days, a weekend retreat, okay, you're getting up at about 6, quadruple meditation before breakfast, yes, 4 sits, yeah, breakfast, quadruple meditation after breakfast, you know, then lunch, and communication exercise, double, yeah, it was intense, and it was all boys, you know, single sex, go for it, pujas at night. And this dream, I'm in this tour, I've been smashed, this force was walking around, and finally I became earth. I became the earth on the floor in this dream. And when I was finally gone, this blue figure rose up and out the top. And I woke up, and I just rushed to the toilet. Diarrhea. It was you know, which end did I point down the toilet, you know? And it was incredible, yeah? It was incredible. And then back to bed. And I couldn't get up for the quadruple sit in the morning, but I got up later in the day, and then I was better. Weird. So they say catharsis, something had been purified. So my dream life, yeah? All right. Good. I mean, it's quite interesting. I've got a line here. Sangharakshita says, there's some good little lines here, that before one can be a Buddhist, one must be a pagan. Yeah? Forget Buddhism, you've got to be a pagan first, yeah? And a pagan has a love of nature. And one's body is part of nature. So really, one should be on good terms with your own body, yeah? Relaxed, yeah? Hence all my metabhavana and things like that. And I remember I was just ashamed of who I was. I didn't know who I was. And my spiritual friends, there's me, 23 years old, and they're going, you don't have a sexuality. Who are you? You know? And I remember in those days, men really were lacking in confidence. Yeah, we didn't know. This is terrible. Men sort of need a war. You know what I mean? And then they know who they are. Yes. You know, but we'd had 50, 60 years of peace, and we didn't know who we were. You know, strange. There we go. So, and when you look at my background, Roman Catholic, my goodness me, the three main icons in Christianity are the baby Jesus in his mother's arms, very sweet. It's painted in all the art galleries everywhere, wonderful, good. On my parents' wall, you know, the baby Jesus and his mum, good. The next great icon is a corpse on a cross, you know, a gibbet, you know. Let's not be nice about it. A dead body hanging there, tortured to death. Who's at the foot of the cross? His mum. Yeah? So that's the next big Christian image, right? The third one is, and it's called La Pieta. It's the dead Christ lying on his mother's lap. You know, we had one in the church in Ireland. When I only went there on holidays. The main one's in Rome by, is it Michelangelo? Yeah? So these are the three main icons. Now, a man trying to find his way on earth, it's a bit difficult with this imagery, you know. The other thing, in Ireland, there's loads of pictures of a very simpering Christ. Long red hair, beautiful, very peaceful, knocking at the door, yeah? His shirt's open, his heart has got usually spikes or thorns in it, it's on fire, all right? Great, that's the other one. You see the Virgin Mary, she's got the same sort of heart job, you know, all the thorns and swords. Our Lady of the Seven Sorrows, she's got 7 swords sticking in her heart, yeah? So Ireland's full of this stuff, great. But I think the other three are the three main icons, yeah? So, yeah, interesting finding your way with that lot, okay? So, yes, one little act of blasphemy which I really liked. It was when my dad was dying. And my mum had this simpering Christ up on the wall, yeah? And all our family names were there, all my brothers and sisters, you know, and the priest had signed it and blessed it, and there's good old Jesus. I remember one night just taking the back off the picture, yeah, and taking it out, and I just put this sort of simulacrum of a cigarette between his fingers, yeah? It was so well done, you know, the little glow, the grey ash, the little wisp of smoke, and Jesus just having a cigarette, you know. And I put the glass back in, and I didn't say a word. Well, my mum didn't discover it for years. Maybe because she was a smoker. I mean, she was a smoker. So and to her credit, when she discovered it, she burst out laughing. Yeah? And she knew who did it immediately. So that was quite a nice little blasphemous act, yeah? So I've got here... yeah, so you've got all these little things you can do, but one of the most powerful, I do believe, is poetry. Writing blasphemous poetry. Funny enough, that's what Gay News got prosecuted for, a poem, yeah? But poetry, why is poetry so good? Poetry, it brings in emotion, it brings in reason. So bringing two factors together, yeah? And they have to match. Because poems have rhythm, they're very easy to remember the words. It's easy to learn rhythms. I've realised this. I saw a film recently, German film of an old people's home where they all had Alzheimer's, yeah? and they all still have rhythm and music at the end. Not necessarily the words. Some of them still have the words of songs, but you remember rhythm very easily, yeah? So the poems are very good. They're very powerful. They go in deep. And sometimes you can write a poem and it comes up from here and you look at it and you're astonished. You go, did I write that? Where did that come from? And there's a truth there that somehow your unconscious has shoved up for you to have a look at, yeah? And it astonishes you and you go, wow, that's true. And you will reflect on that maybe for years. You have spoken to you in this marvellous language of poetry, yeah? And I thought, today we have things called tweets, yes? Now, I've never seen one, yeah? I don't really know what they are. I don't want to, yeah? Hopefully I'll go to my grave without ever seeing a tweet, yeah? But for centuries, politicians, critics, everybody, what they would do, they'd write these short little verses, you know, with a criticism of another politician. And if they were really witty and well done, they'd go out into the world and they'd travel. And everybody would be repeating them. Have you heard what old so-and-so said? You know, and it's got a sting in it and it just travels. This is what they had, yeah? I tell you how far back this goes. There was a time where some rivals set a big slander against the Buddha's community 2,500 years ago. Yeah? I won't go into details, it's pretty ugly. And the monks were all going, oh, our reputation's destroyed. Oh, everybody knows about it. And the Buddha said, no, no, no. And he gave them a little rhyme. It's exactly the same. He said, learn this, recite it. When you meet the villagers, just say this little rhyme, and in 7 days, the scandal will be over. And it was. So, anyway, that's a little defence of poetry, yeah? So it's a good old tradition there, okay? So, my dream life, I think I was still a mitra. I remember dreaming I was in a cathedral, trying to carry all these glass jars, I don't know why, and the wind started in the cathedral, and I was dropping the glass jars, and this wind blew me right up to the altar, and then out the side door. Woke up, yeah? So something was going on with my practice. I remember another dream, I just don't get this one, but I was dreaming that these two hands were strangling me, yeah? And I woke up, and I discovered that I had real hands and strangling hands at the same time. And the strangling hands, they shot back into my chest. I went, what was that? You know. So these are just a bit of my dream life, yeah? I remember the shadow figure. We were trying to incorporate the darker side of yourself, the shadow figure, yeah? And one night, seeing this black guy coming up out of the canal. You know, canals often have steps running down the side of them. This fellow was coming up. I was terrified. Did I knock him down? Did I pull him up? I didn't know. But the shadow was coming. And then later on, in a dream, just travelling along with this really big, grey, shiny dog. Oh, we seem to be friends. And then in another one later on, 2 leopards travelling either side of me with blue sparks crackling off the leopards as we walked along. Nothing's going right. and just sort of meeting Buddhist characters in dreams. So this is where I was sort of going. But the one which felt like an arrival was in this one dream. Going down, I was in a cemetery, a Friedhof, going down in this and digging down, 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 down. And I got down 3 meters. And I think 3 meters is significant because Christian burials are 2 meters. And this was 3 meters. I was down 3. And there I found this enormous Greek god in white marble, this Pan figure with horns and goat's hooves, and just bringing him up. And he was, I said 10 foot, he was 3 meters high himself, and just standing him up there. And I'm thinking, I've done it. And it was like really coming out of Christianity. Still, I mean, I'll always be coming out of Christianity. You don't just shuffle that stuff off easily. But that felt very good. So there we are. There was a little bit of autobiography there. All right? I said this, my irrational guilt had received a death blow. Yeah? And so, okay, I've just introduced a term there, irrational guilt. Irrational guilt. Guilt's not bad. It holds society together. You do a bad thing, people find out, you feel guilty. Good. Feel guilty. You did a bad thing. Remember that. It hurts. Us hurts you. You know? Stop it. Yeah? Guilt's okay. Yeah? It modifies your behaviour. Yeah? Live through it, change yourself. Yeah? Then you won't have guilt. Great stuff. Irrational guilt, you're actually scared of something you can't see and doesn't exist. Ooh, spooky, spooky. And you can have a whole nation ashamed of itself. What are you frightened of? I remember one of the first Russian space flights, and they announced we went into outer space and we didn't find God. Yeah, good old communists. cheeky. Sorry, that wasn't in the talk. All right, the joke's creeping. Yeah, but but what a way of controlling people! Irrational guilt. Create the notion of a God. Let people know he doesn't really like you. You know, he's created this enormous fiery pit where you will burn forever. You know. Oh, thank you. You know, that's tough stuff. Yeah. So, and irrational guilt, I remember, this is horrible, I remember speaking to a colleague of mine when I was a young teacher. And I said, you know, Beryl, you have really good class control. She's only a petite little thing with a quiet voice. I said, how'd you do it? You know, controlling school kids is quite something, and she was really good. She said, when I get a new year, in the first week, I make all of the children as ashamed of themselves as I possibly can. Then I just tap into that at any moment I need to. Great, isn't it? It is a little bit shocking how easy it is to brainwash. It's a little bit shocking, yeah? Listen, I've got to tell you a story. It's such a good one. It's not in the talk. My third teaching practice, it was in a really rough area in Hackney. 80% of the kids only had one parent at home. It was rough, yeah? This is such a lovely story. My mum said to me, she was a teacher. I come from a whole clan of teachers. She said, have a bell on your desk, and that bell is for silence. When the kids hear the bell, they must be quiet, yeah? And she said, and never use it. Okay? So, the bell used to sit on the desk, it used to get a bit louder, go, quiet, quiet, and the kids go, use the bell, Mr. Two, use the bell. No, we don't use the bell, only for a moment. And this bell sort of grew and grew and grew, and I never used the bell. It got bigger and bigger, this tiny little bell. One day, we're moving school, so I've been given half of a classroom, and I have to share it with the library. All right? It's packed. I've got 30 kids in there. These women are packing up the library. There's a couple of women around the edge. There's no room. It's my art class. We're making puppets. We've got plumber's toe for the hair. We've got cloth. We've got paste, paints, papier-mâché. These kids are all about 10, 11 years old. It's bedlam. It's chaos. Yeah? It's a mess everywhere. You can picture it, yeah? The noise, and then one of the kids goes, Miss Two, we haven't had our milk. We used to have school milk. Can't you have it? No, we want our milk now. So I said, all right, give out. So the milk's being given out. It's bedlam, it's chaos. These women packing up are going, look at it, you know, the noise, yeah. It's half of a room, and in the middle of the noise, the door opens, and I'm under inspection myself. In comes my inspector with the headmaster. I don't even hear them, there's so much noise. And they're standing there looking at hell, yeah? And I reached over and I picked up the bell, I went ping, and the whole class, it froze. Nobody could move. Absolutely nobody could move. You know, the removal ladies, what? You know, it was astonishing. Now, I'm saying this, I created a taboo. Do you see what I'm saying? It's that easy. It's that easy. Anyway, all right. But there's a lovely little punchline where this little girl, Beverly, you know, I can't forget her name, so 45 years ago, and my inspector, she was so shocked by it all. And I overheard her say to Beverly, "Is Mr. Toomey really strict?" And she went, "No, he's really nice." I will always love Beverly. so anyway, there you go. But just give you an idea about conditioning, you know? Yeah, so there we go. Sorry, that wasn't in the talk. All right. So, yeah. So I Googled blasphemy in the Bible. Good up, Google. And I found there's 35 warnings in the Old Testament and a few in the New. I was surprised. Matthew, Mark and Luke, they're all warning about blasphemy. It's the one unforgivable thing. Yeah. What is blasphemy? Basically, don't use God's name in a bad way. That's a good, simple way of saying it. Yeah. All right. Now, who's seen Pulp Fiction? Pulp Fiction? All right. You really need Samuel L. Jackson to do the next bit, all right? This is the first commandment. I've shortened it a tiny little bit because it's too long. You need Samuel Jackson to come in, you know. I am Yahweh your God, yeah? You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves an idol nor any image of anything. You shall not bow down yourself to them nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and the fourth generation. That's how it should go, all right? I've shortened it a little bit, all right? Iniquity, I had to look it up. It's badness, bad things your dad did, all right? So the iniquity of the fathers, the punishment is going to come down. This is in the Bible, yeah? The father's going to get punished. His children are going to be punished. His children's children are going to get punished, and his children's children's children are going to get punished too. So don't use God's name wrongly, okay? All right, good. By the way, this 4 generations thing has popped up for me a lot in history. It's another talk. It's fascinating how a people either recover, takes 4 generations to recover. Very interesting. I've got lots of sources on it, yeah? And I even mention, I even think of Germany finally waving their national flag at the Football World Cup last time, yeah? They finally got there. They were so ashamed of their national flag. And that's about 3 to 4 generations. They're finally, you know, healing, yeah? Interesting. So I noticed that the first 5 commandments are all about being sweet to God, you know, looking after his name, yeah? Not worshipping idols, being good on the Sabbath, yeah? And the second 5 are sort of communal things, looking after society, yeah? You know, not coveting your neighbour's wife, you know, wanting her, not killing. Though I did find under the original 10 Commandments, though you're not allowed to kill, you are allowed to kill if it's an execution, if it's war, or if it's burglars. You're all right, yeah? So, great. Go to Wikipedia, check me out. Yeah, don't just believe me. Good. So, the 10 Buddhist precepts I found interesting. There's no higher being referred to. It's just all practical. It's about you working on yourself, yeah? So, but there we are, yeah? And, you know, the Buddhist precepts, they're not just about preserving society, though that's not their purpose, they do that. But it is about emancipation, freedom, and, you know, freedom from everything that's limiting, just, yeah, enlightenment, fantastic. So, yeah, the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity and Islam, yeah, these are religions of revelation. You know, God tells us what's going on. And you see old Moses coming down Mount Sinai with his new tablet. Sorry, I had to say that. Yeah. Look at this. Yeah. So anyway, but Buddhism is a religion of discovery. Yeah, we have to do it ourselves. You'll be encouraged, you'll be given teachings, but it's our business. Nobody's going to check out. You know, you're not going to be sent to hell or sent to heaven by somebody else. It's your stuff. Good. All right. So there's a little bit too much there. All right. So I'm going to skip that bit. But I am interested in, God saying, I am a jealous God. He says it a number of times, He gives poor old Job hell. I don't know if you know the book of Job, Eob in Germany. Poor old Job, he's, good man, doing well, everything's going well, worship, loves God, loves everything. And the devil comes along and goes, yeah, well, he would, wouldn't he? Because everything's going well. And God says, watch this. And he sends a message, your children are all dead, your wife's dead, I've wiped out your crops. Poor old Job, worship. God sends down disease and plague and everything on him, And he carries on, he stays true. I found it interesting. Carl Jung, psychologist, yeah? He's written a short book. I've not read it, I've held it in my hands. He says that in this episode in the Bible, Job has outclassed God. Job has humiliated God by being sort of more ethical than God is. And God has to grow up from this point on. This is Carl Jung's point. Interesting. Yeah? So good. So, I think God sends some of the stuff back to old Job. Yeah, there we are. Great. But yes, he's a jealous God. And jealousy, it's a nasty emotion. That's what I just left out. In Buddhism, we're working with greed, hatred and delusion. And a couple of them, greed. Okay, we've got to turn them into the opposites. But greed can become sort of devotion. You really love your guru. You put all the flowers there, you look after them, buy them sweeties. There's something sort of positive going on. Greed can sort of move towards devotion. Hatred, you're sitting there reading a Buddhist book. This is rubbish. They shouldn't be allowed to print, And I could do better than this. And you do. You start writing your own Buddhist books, And we have Konza in Germany, a great translator and a not very nice man at all, yeah? So, long dead. But, so even hatred can have an affinity with wisdom. But jealousy, it doesn't go anywhere. It's a mixture of greed and hatred, yeah? So anyway, God claiming, I am jealous. All right, he does it a number of times. Good luck. Okay, so, all right, I'll skip that bit. Yeah, I've done it really. All right, so it's a Buddhist centre. We better have a bit of the Buddha in here, yeah? So, the Buddha, he's walking through a village. A rude man starts insulting him. This is a famous story. I think Tarapala's told this one. And the Buddha just says in front of him, tell me, to the rude man, if you buy a gift for somebody and that person does not take it, to whom does the gift belong? The man, surprised, says, well, I suppose it would belong to me if I bought it. And the Buddha says, yes. And your anger, don't want it, it's yours. Yeah? Okay? You keep it, yeah? So, the Buddha's not toppled. He's not toppled, yeah? There's another incident. I couldn't find the source of this. I know it's true. Where a young disciple is hearing somebody really criticising the Buddha, and he gets upset. And the Buddha hears of this, and he goes, come here. He says to the young disciple, he says, which part of this man are you angry with? His nose? His eye? Which bit? Yeah. His ear. Are you angry with his ear? And the Buddha just sort of takes this person to pieces mentally. And the poor young fellow, the disciple, his anger just dissipates. Yeah, it's gone. Pure Dharma. This is lovely. This is lovely. There's no blasphemy laws here necessary, you just respond with intelligence, yeah? But then the Buddha did give one of the toughest teachings that I have experienced, him saying, he says, if thieves or robbers were to cut you up with a double-handed saw, when they saw with two hands, cutting your limbs off, were you to pollute your mind with hatred, you would not be fulfilling my teaching. Yeah? And he says you should train yourself, yeah? Our thoughts will not become perverted, nor will we utter evil words, yeah? We will pervade others with thoughts of friendliness, yeah? And with all of this, you will find liberation. That is a tall order. To be a true follower of the Buddha, we would not feel hatred in this situation. Now, this story has troubled me for a long while. And first of all, we have good days and we have bad days. Let's just say that, yeah? All right. But there is an historic case. I mentioned Carl Jung. He had a friend called Lawrence van der Post. Van der Post was also dead friendly with Prince Charles, but let that be, yeah? He's godfather to William. Amazing, isn't it? But van der Post, this Dutchman, yeah? He was tortured by the Japanese in the Second World War. So he's being tortured. And he just goes into an experience that we call metta. And he just felt this amazing, overwhelming love for his torturers. And he just saw them as children and just loved them. I read his biography. It's true, it's what happened to him. And after the war, he used to visit Japanese prisoners of war in prison. They were his friends, So that's Lawrence van der Post. Yeah, it can happen. And he didn't have the Dharma, all right? So there we are. But it's just this, anyway, we'll leave it. But it's a training. It's a whole training, That's what you can't think it to happen. You train for years. And again, a lovely example. Do you remember that? Have you seen the film Sully? It's a lovely film. The pilot who lands that plane on the Boston River and saves everybody's life, Both engines fail. And he managed to get the plane onto the Boston River. This is only a few years ago. I remember it in the news. Lands the plane. All the rescue boats come out. Everybody's saved, When he was asked about it, he said, well, I have a highly trained crew. They did their jobs. And in the movie, you see it. It's so impressive. Nobody panics. The crew all do their jobs. And that's what we will be doing. Yeah, we'll do our metta bhavnas. We'll be ethical and things like that. It's a training for crunch time. Yeah. So, good. That's part one. Part two is complete theft. This is Sangharakshita, yeah? This is Sangharakshita. Just to give you a break from my voice, Tarapanata, would you like to read the Heart Sutra? Is that all right? Yes? All right, you've got it there. Oh, fantastic. So, just to give you a break, I now want to look at a Buddhist text. What is Buddhism? I want to just have a little look at blasphemy. Does it exist in Buddhism? So please, this sutra is the wisest of the wise. It's it's our best. We have it in the puja. Tarapanata, take it away. Yeah?
The Heart Sutra. The Bodhisattva of compassion, when he meditated deeply, saw the emptiness of all five skandhas and sundered the bonds that caused him suffering. Here then, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is only emptiness, emptiness only form. Feeling, thought and choice, consciousness itself, are the same as this. All things are by nature void. They are not born or destroyed, nor are they stained or pure, nor do they wax or wane. So, in emptiness, no form, no feeling, thought or choice, nor is there consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no colour, sound, smell, taste, touch, or what the mind takes hold of. No even act of sensing, no ignorance or end of it, nor all that comes of ignorance, no is there pain or cause of pain, or cease in pain, or noble path to lead from pain? Not even wisdom to attain. Attainment too is emptiness. So know that the Bodhisattva, holding to nothing whatever, but dwelling in pranya wisdom, is freed of delusive hindrance, rid of the fear bred by it, and reaches clearest nirvana. All Buddhas of past and present, Buddhas of future time, using this pranya wisdom, come to full and perfect vision. Hear then the great Dharani, the radiant peerless mantra, the pranya paramita, whose words allay all pain. Hear and believe its truth. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha.
Thank you. Super. The Heart Sutra. That's its title. It's called the Pranya Paramita Hridaya Sutra. Pranya, wisdom. Paramita, supreme. Hridaya, heart. And sutra is a teaching that the Buddha would have said. It came from his lips. Pranya Paramita Hridaya Sutra, the Heart Sutra we call it. I got all this following stuff from Free Buddhist Audio. It's a lecture by Sangharakshita called the Heart Sutra. Be careful, you have to go into Sangharakshita's section first, because everybody seems to do talks on this title. Yeah. So you have to look. All right. There were 35 Pranya Paramita Sutras. 35. Yeah? That's a lot. They appeared between 100 BC and 500 AD. So over 600 years, these all appeared. They are the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. Ooh, perfect wisdom. Okay, nice. It's looking good. Yeah. In the first few hundred years, some quite, major ones appeared. I've written down the titles. Well, I think I'll just give you the English, yeah? Can I do that? One is the Ratnaguna Samchayagata one. I can't find the English. Sort of the qualities of the Buddha, yeah? Oh, and the other one, forget the Sanskrit, is the Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 lines. So these appear in the first 200 years. Then, in the next 200 years, the sutras start getting really long. Really, really long, yeah? We have the Perfection of Wisdom in 800,000 lines, translated by a good old German Konza, yeah? A sutra in 10,000 lines, 18,000 lines, 25,000 lines. So there's this phase of them getting really long. Fantastic. The Perfection of Wisdom, whatever that is, yeah? Then in the last 200 years, they get shorter and shorter. And they finally get down to the Perfection of Wisdom in one letter. Yeah? Which Dhammasara knows, don't you? It is the letter?
I think it's R.
It is R, yeah? Which means not. So whatever there is, it's not. Yeah? And that's the whole sutra in one letter. The Indians, they just love to go to extremes, yeah? So if you had a word like consciousness, vijnana, yeah? Stick an R in front of it. Avijnana, no consciousness. That's what they do, okay? So we've got the sutra in one letter. Fantastic. All right. Now, in all of this, we have our Heart Sutra, which has just been recited. It's about the Perfection of Wisdom, yeah? And I just got to give you the format. You've heard it. That all came from a bodhisattva in the Mahayana called Avalokiteshvara. He's teaching this supreme wisdom. And who's he teaching it to? Poor old Sariputta. I mentioned him the other week. Sariputta is the wisest man in the Hinayana. And the Mahayana are going, oh, Hinayana, this is the real deal, you know, that's limited. So let's teach the wisest man in the Hinayana what wisdom really is. Shall we send in the Bodhisattva of wisdom? Not necessary. Shall we send in the plumber? Not really. We'll send in the Bodhisattva of compassion. He's good enough. All right, so Avalokiteshvara's got in there to teach the poor Sariputta. He's amazing. You read his life, it's great. This is naughty, 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 yeah, what they're doing here, okay? And he says, all right, let's start. And let's maybe work from what we've just heard here. He comes in, he says, the Bodhisattva of compassion, when he meditated deeply, saw the emptiness of all 5 skandhas and sundered the bonds that caused him suffering. So, 5 skandhas, 5 heaps. It's a teaching, yeah? And to get away from craving, one way is to say, hey, listen, you're not as real as you thought you were. You know, you're made up from 5 different piles, you know? I can see there, okay, you've got form, you've got a shape, you've got feelings, you've got perceptions, you've got impulses, you know, that's what Bhante says here, and you've got consciousness. It's like an artist's palette. I go, bloop, 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 these 5 colours, and I've got you, you know? So we analyse people down into these 5 heaps. Very good technique. Avalokiteshvara comes along and says, yeah, basically, you got so hot about that teaching. It's just a teaching. You know, it's not real. It's not real. There's no substance to it. And you've got monks going around. This is the danger of the spiritual life. You struggle to understand something, and then you understand it. And you go, oh, I understand this. And then you get smug. Smug. Lovely English word. I looked up the German. What's it? Eitle Selbstzufriedenheit. Isn't that? We've only got 4 letters, smug. Yeah. Sorry, the Germans will appreciate that, I'm sure. But you know, and you become complacent. You settle down. I've got it. I know how to analyse beings. It's in 5 heaps. You know, and the ego has climbed in, made it all solid. No, there's nothing solid there at all. You know, and anyway, so I didn't bring my little book. It's all right, but. I've got a lovely little Buddhist dictionary, and it analyses the 5 heaps. And so you've got consciousness there, and they say, actually, there's 86 different types of consciousness. Woo. There's all these different types of form, all these different, you know, the feelings, there's not so many, you know, pleasant, neutral, unpleasant, you know, physical, yeah. But, you know, that goes bigger. But Sangharakshita, he's interested in who is it? The Sarvastivadins, who I don't know anything about, yeah? And he says they actually rejected this 5-fold analysis, and they went for a 4-fold, you know, form, thought, mental concomitants, and miscellaneous, why not, yeah? So, and they subdivided these down to about, 72 different elements plus 3 that were not of this world, you know, sort of enlightened, blah, 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 blah. Great stuff. So they've got, and they call all these little bits dharmas. We've done it, we've broken it all down into little dharmas. It's like, it's like physicists, isn't it, going down into smaller and smaller parts. You know, when I was at school, it was, you know, neutrons, electrons, protons. That's baby stuff now. That's rubbish. You know, it's all gone into quarks and everything, yeah? And various other yogurt beverages. Sorry. So there we go. Yeah. But so they break it down into the dharmas. And again, maybe the smugness comes in. We got it. We can analyse life. We've done it. And along comes Avalokiteshvara, and he just says, all dharmas are empty. It's not there. It's not solid. Yeah. It's on the move. Yeah. So Avalokiteshvara, representing perfect wisdom, Bhante says, destroys, smashes, pulverizes, if you like, all systematic intellectual constructions about reality. Yeah? And he says, all dharmas are empty. All right? Then he goes a little bit further, and he basically says, by the way, there's no such thing as Buddhism. Isn't that great? You know, you can see why I like this. Is there blasphemy in Buddhism? Yeah, we did it. The Buddhists are the blasphemers. You know, they rip their religion to pieces. Yeah. So it's absolutely true. Yeah. So and this thing, Avalokiteshvara is saying it's empty. It says this analysis, feeling, thought, choice. He said it's all empty. Yeah. That things are born or destroyed, you know, empty, that things grow and wane, empty. He goes through all the analysis, the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, you know, all this. He goes through seeing, hearing, you know, contact with all these things. He says, all empty, these are all teachings. He goes through the 12 nidanas, starting off with ignorance. There's no ignorance or end of it, no. He destroys the 12 nidana teachings, yes? He goes on, nor is there pain or cause of pain or cease in pain or noble path to lead from pain. That's the Four Noble Truths. That's smash, empty, you know, not even wisdom to attain. Attainment, forget it. Forget it. Yeah? And then he says, so know that the Bodhisattva holding to nothing whatever but dwelling in prajna wisdom. So this prajna wisdom, this perfect wisdom, is the absolute letting go of everything as best as I can understand it. No formulations, just a complete letting go. Yeah? And then there's this mantra, the prajna paramita, and it ends with Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha, as Taraparasa chanted, yeah? And Gate, gone. You've gone beyond all sort of the ordinary world, yes? A second Gate, Nirvana. Leave that, you know, gone beyond that. Then the difference between the two, dualism, you know? Paragate, supremely gone beyond dualism, that there is non-enlightenment and enlightenment, yeah? I have to read here, yeah? But Bhante goes on, but it isn't enough to go beyond conditioned and to go beyond the unconditioned, you know, ordinary and the enlightened, yeah? It's not enough. We may say, he says, using Christian language, it's not enough to overcome Satan. You've got to overcome God too. You know, the whole shebang. And then, yeah, Paragate, gone beyond the distinction of the unconditioned, samsara nirvana, and the world. Then gone beyond all distinctions whatsoever. Then lastly, Parasamgate, which means gone altogether beyond. And how does one do this? One goes beyond even the conception of shunyata. So you've had this thing about seeing that everything is what? Fluid, not fixed, no thing there. Go beyond that. Even that teaching. Leave that behind. The next word, bodhi, enlightenment. And then the final one, swaha. Bandits, you can't really translate it. It's sort of blessings. But it's a bit like, wow. Yeah? It's all gone well, Bhante says. All is well. Yeah? Swaha. Yeah? So, that's it really. The great blasphemer in Buddhism is Buddhism. Yeah? You know, don't settle on anything. The parable of the raft, do you know that? Buddha said, what do you think of somebody who builds this great raft across the river? Maybe it's 3 tons of wood. They get to the other side and then you find them trying to take it with them. Yeah? You dump Buddhism in the end. Buddhism is the raft. You go beyond Buddhism. Yeah? Result? Freedom, enlightenment, wisdom, or perfect wisdom. Thank you. Any questions? I couldn't have a question. I've done it. I wouldn't have one. So, yes, oh, Tell me your name first again.
Simon.
Simon, yes.
I heard that image before, that Buddhism is a raft and you take it to the other side.
Yes.
But if you, I mean, I understand that you don't hold on to it,
Yeah.
but as I understood, Buddha was still practicing his ethics, his meditation and all that, and he would be teaching it to others.
Yeah.
So why would you sink the raft?
You wouldn't sink, you just leave it behind. So, first of all, it's interesting your word there. The Buddha wouldn't be practicing ethics anymore. Yeah? You would say, and this is true, this is good Dharma, the Buddha is ethics. The Buddha cannot be unethical. His being is ethics. So there's no more practice for the Buddha. Though, interestingly, there are accounts of later on the Buddha having a little bit of meditation from time to time. Maybe it's a little bit of a holiday because he still had a body, and the older you get, I won't swear, the rougher bodies get. They smell, they hurt, they weak. I got myself locked in a cemetery again the other night, you know. Yeah, same one. I didn't realise they shut the gates at 8. I thought it was later, you know. And I found my old pallet. Somebody else has been using it to get out, you know, and I had to get my bike over the wall. And then I got all ready to stand on this, you know, stand the pallet sideways. And my right leg wouldn't work. I'm old. So sorry, anyway. So, yeah. I had to find another technique. But I just couldn't do that kick and spring over the wall, you know. But, yeah. So the Buddha took little holidays, and towards the end of his life, it was irksome for him, you know. His body hurt so much, yeah. So then he sort of practiced. But there's more in your question. I've missed it, sorry. So the Buddha, and yes, the Buddha is offering the teachings to everybody. That's legitimate. He's the guide. And out of his, you know, one of the first things that happen as you get enlightened is compassion just arises, and you just want to help. And what's fantastic is you can see the Buddha, things happen in time. Even though he's enlightened, you need time. So the Buddha comes up with teachings at the beginning, and then later on the teachings are a bit better. You know, then later on he shortens the teachings. And you see this progression through his life, and it's all compassion, trying to help others. Yeah. But he himself, he's no longer practicing.
I think what you're saying about the raft as well, it's not a case of like, oh yeah, we don't need the raft. I think it's more like we definitely need the raft, but at a point in enlightenment, then you see it for what it is in a way. It's been something that's been helpful. But I think maybe the problem you can get, especially in the Western ways, like you superseded the raft because we maybe intellectually understood that Buddhism itself was a construction. And then you think, oh well, because of construction, I'll just go straight to the goal and I'm already enlightened, or something like that. And you get a weird thing where the Buddhism itself gets kind of relegated, which is the opposite of what you're saying. Otherwise, you're just in the middle of the river, flapping around like crazy, trying to get somewhere.
I was criticised in the past by old school friends saying, yeah, but Buddhism's a crutch, you know, for you to lean on. And I went, yeah, it really is. But it worked. It's a good crutch. It's not a crutch that falls to pieces when you lean on it, you know. And you know, I've got a broken leg. Oh, I'm not using crutches. No, you know, you use a crutch. It's fantastic, yeah. And then one day, he's walking without crutches. Yes. Sorry. But, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Simon, yeah.
Is it fun? I was thinking of that. So what's the time actually?
It's gone 5. It's 10 past.
Oh, fine.
The day is young. We're going to have lunch and come back in a minute. No. Sorry.
No, I was just, okay. I was going to say it's quite interesting, though, isn't it? The whole, you know, this kind of deconstruction of all these teachings. Okay, everything's empty.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do need to generate some kind of sense of momentum or something, and so you're going in a certain direction. So it's to have that balance in a way, knowing that it's constructive, and at the same time having enough of you behind it, energy, in order to make use of it. It's quite a
very good.
tricky.
in the survey of Buddhism, Bhante is quite clear that at the beginning you use self-power. You do your metta-bhavanas, you do your mindfulness of breathing, you do your ethics, work, and you're developing yourself. But as you develop, you start going, I already can't find a self, you know. And this idea of self-power begins to get a bit thin. And then he sort of says you hand over to other power, you know, you just let the Buddhas in. You know, get on your cushion, open up, you know. So there's your dilemma. But early on, you're absolutely right, you're generating. You're generating. Yeah, great. Fantastic. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Great.